It has been 28 years since the shocking murder of 6-year-old beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey, yet her story still haunts the world. In December 1996, what should have been a joyful holiday season for the Ramsey family turned into a nightmare. JonBenet was found dead in the basement of her family's home in Boulder, Colorado. Her tiny body was discovered by her father, John Ramsey, and the gruesome details of the crime left the nation in disbelief. A garrote type of strangling device was found around her neck, and her skull was fractured. What made the case even more puzzling was a handwritten ransom note found in the house, demanding million yuan baten for JonBenet's return, but her body had been inside the home the entire time. The bizarre and heartbreaking nature of the crime, along with many mistakes made during the investigation, caused a media storm and decades of speculation. From the beginning, many people suspected the Ramsey family, and even JonBenet's 9-year-old brother, Burke, was questioned. For many years, Burke remained silent. But now, after nearly 3 decades, he has finally decided to speak out, and what he says may change everything we thought we knew. Burke Ramsey, who was just a child when his sister was murdered, has always stayed out of the public eye. While his parents gave interviews and tried to defend their family's name, Burke chose to remain silent, never agreeing to appear in documentaries or media events about the case. That changed when he finally sat down with Dr. Phil for a 3-part interview that made headlines. During the emotional conversation, Burke explained why he chose to speak up after so many years. "If the story is going to be told, I want to tell it," he said. "I don't want people talking about mine, rather tell my own story." Dr. Phil asked him tough questions about the night of the murder. Burke said he had stayed in his room and didn't know anything was wrong until later. He denied having any part in JonBenet's death and explained that his nervous behavior as a child was misunderstood. For example, he sometimes smiled during interviews, which some people thought was suspicious. But according to Burke, he was just anxious and didn't know how to act during such a serious time. The interview gave viewers a rare look into the mind of someone who has lived in the shadow of a national tragedy. From the very beginning, the investigation into JonBenet's death was filled with problems. One of the biggest mistakes was how police handled the crime scene. When the Ramsey family called 911 to report their daughter missing, police arrived at the home but did not secure it properly. Family members, friends, and even police officers walked freely through the house, touching things and possibly destroying evidence. Hours later, JonBenet's father found her body in the basement and carried her upstairs, disturbing the crime scene even more. The ransom note was also strange. It was written on paper from inside the house and asked for exactly $118,000, the same amount as John Ramsey's Christmas bonus. There were no signs of forced entry, making it seem like the killer might have already been inside. Police started to suspect the family. Patsy Ramsey, JonBenet's mother, was questioned about the ransom note, and handwriting tests were inconclusive. The garrote used in the murder was made from a paintbrush found in the home. All these clues made the case even more confusing. Many experts later said that the police didn't handle the investigation properly and that important evidence was lost forever because of their early mistakes. As the investigation dragged on, the media became obsessed with the Ramsey case. Newspapers, TV shows, and tabloids began covering every small detail and jumping to conclusions without real evidence. Patsy Ramsey was often portrayed as a pushy pageant mom who wanted her daughter to be famous, while John Ramsey was accused of hiding something. Some TV programs even held mock trials, acting as if the parents were guilty before any facts were proven. The public became divided. Some believed the parents were innocent, while others were sure they were involved. Even young Burke Ramsey was not spared. People analyzed old videos and interviews of him, looking for signs of guilt. As a result, the family became the center of one of the most high-profile media attacks in history. At just 9 years old, Burke was dragged into this media storm, which may explain why he chose to remain silent for so long. The media not only added pressure to the family, but may have also affected how the police conducted the case, with reporters camped outside their home and wild stories spreading every day. The investigation lost its focus. Years after the tragedy, a major breakthrough changed the course of the case. In 2006, new DNA testing found genetic material from an unknown male on JonBenet's clothing. This DNA did not match any member of the Ramsey family. As a result, the Boulder District Attorney officially cleared John, Patsy, and Burke Ramsey of any involvement in the murder. In 2008, the District Attorney even apologized for how the family had been treated. Despite this new evidence, no suspect was ever identified. The unknown DNA profile was added to a national database, but no match was found. In 2016, more advanced testing revealed that there were actually several unidentified male DNA profiles on JonBenet's clothing. This strongly supported the theory that an intruder could have been responsible for the crime. Still, the police have not been able to find out who the DNA belongs to. Even worse, Burke and other family members have said that some pieces of evidence were never properly tested. Burke believes that if the police had done their job better in the beginning, the case might have been solved long ago. Over the years, many theories have tried to explain what happened to John. Some people believe an intruder entered the house and committed the crime. Others think it was an accident that was covered up by the family. One theory suggested that Burke accidentally hurt JonBenet during an argument and that the parents staged the ransom note to protect him. This idea was given new attention in the 2016 CBS documentary, The Case of JonBenet Ramsey. The show suggested that Burke hit his sister with a flashlight in a moment of anger. In response, Burke filed a $750 million defamation lawsuit against CBS, which was later settled out of court. During his Dr. Phil interview, Burke firmly denied ever harming his sister. He said he believes an outsider may have been responsible, possibly someone from the pageant world where JonBenet was well known. He also criticized the police, saying they didn't do enough to protect evidence or investigate other suspects. These competing theories have made the case one of the most debated in American crime history. Law enforcement experts and former detectives have often pointed out the many problems with how the case was handled. The Boulder Police Department was not prepared for such a high-profile crime. Their response was slow and unorganized. The home was not treated as a serious crime scene, and many areas including the basement where JonBenet's body was found were not searched right away. A single detective told John Ramsey to search the house himself, which led to him finding the body and disturbing the evidence even more. Later, it was revealed that the family was not separated or properly interviewed until months after the murder. Retired Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner admitted that the entire process was mishandled from the start. Forensic experts like Joe Kenda and FBI agent Ron Walker have also criticized the case, saying that early mistakes destroyed any chance of solving the crime. Even when new DNA testing became available, some important items were returned without being tested. This has led many, including Burke and his half-brother John Andrew Ramsey, to believe that the truth might still be uncovered, if only the remaining DNA evidence could be re-examined with today's technology. After 28 years, JonBenet Ramsey's murder remains a painful mystery. While DNA evidence has helped clear the family's name, it hasn't brought anyone to justice. Burke Ramsey's decision to finally speak out may help change that. His interview gave a new perspective and reminded the public that he was just a child when this tragedy happened. Burke's honesty and calmness during the Dr. Phil show gave many viewers a reason to see him in a new light. He didn't try to give all the answers, but he made it clear that he wanted to tell his side of the story. Today, JonBenet's family is still asking for new DNA testing. They believe that advances in technology could finally reveal the truth. John Andrew Ramsey recently said that he believes the case is solvable if law enforcement is willing to act. After all these years, the Ramsey family continues to seek justice for JonBenet, not just for closure, but to clear their names once and for all. Whether or not the case will ever be solved, one thing is clear: the world has not forgotten JonBenet Ramsey, and her story still matters. My family, what happened to the community at large is wrong. This 6-year-old little girl was killed on their watch, and ultimately, they are responsible for finding the killer, and they can do it. We want them to do it. He says Thatha is still motivated to find his little sister's killer, but he is still calling Gupin the investigators to do better for the sake of JonBenet, he said. I think it's really important for people to understand that this case can be solved. There's a narrative out there that this is an unsolved homicide and that we just have to accept that as fact, and that is not the truth. If we leverage the evidence and we follow the facts, we will find this killer, he remembered. The day found out that JonBenet Ramsey had passed away. He was taking off from Atlanta where he was spending the holidays with his mother and sister and wanted to go to his father's family. Then he got a note saying he needed to call home. The shocking call was something he never expected. Unlike Burke, who hardly ever appeared in public, John spoke more about his sister and the impact on the family. He once told 2020, JonBenet waste kid that kept the conversation at the dinner table going. You know, she would go around and ask everybody how their day was and what they did, and she was just an energetic and fun kid. He also revealed the issues that their family went through. Patty had stage 4 cancer, and they also lost the first sibling Beth in an awful car accident. They were already going through a lot of emotions and never expected that something like that could happen in time, but one thing he never expected was that the entire world would turn against them, accusing them of killing their youngest daughter, the media fanned the rumors, making their family situation worse. It wasn't until new DNA evidence emerged that Joan and Patty Ramsey, who spent a decade defending themselves against allegations, were finally free. He has said, "We lost our sister and our daughter, a family member. We were victims, and the very people that we thought were going to come in and protect us and help us were pointing the finger at us. We were just regular people. And then, all of a sudden, our world just got turned upside down." Despite all the challenges that they faced, the Ramsey family continued to fight nearly 30 years after JonBenet's 1996 murder. The case remains a pin, and her father, John Ramsey, a tireless campaign for justice. In January 2025, he met with Boulder's new police chief Stephen Redfern, expressing renewed optimism after years of feeling stonewalled. Chief Redfern's openness and leadership impressed him, and dreamed hope unreleased. Interview tapes from 1998, which featured John and Patty Ramsey, were made public. This show that prosecutors were searching for nearly 3 decades. Burke Ramsey has lived under the shadow of his sister's murder. As a child, he was suddenly thrust into the center of a national tragedy, and although he was just 9 years old at the time, many in the public treated him like a suspect. The years that followed were not normal for him. While most children his age were going to school, playing with friends, and living carefree lives, Burke was being analyzed in news reports, documentaries, and internet forums. He became the subject of rumors, wild theories, and cruel comments. Even his body language and facial expressions during childhood interviews were used as proof by some who believed he was guilty. But now, in adulthood, Burke has tried to move on and live a more private life. He studied engineering and has kept a low profile. In his Dr. Phil interview, Burke opened up about the psychological toll the entire case has taken on him. He admitted that he still struggles with the trauma, and that speaking about it publicly was not easy. "People have said horrible things about me," he shared, "but I know the truth, and I want others to understand what really happened, or what I believe happened." His bravery in finally speaking out has helped change some people's views. While he didn't offer new evidence, Burke's openness reminded the world that he was a child caught in the middle of a horrific crime and that he too lost someone he loved deeply. JonBenet Ramsey was more than just a beauty queen or a headline. She was a 6-year-old girl who loved to sing, dance, and make people smile. Her life was full of promise, and her murder stole that away, not just from her, but from everyone who loved her. As the years passed, JonBenet became a symbol of lost innocence. Her image, often shown in pageant dresses and crowns, was broadcast across every major media outlet, turning her into a household name. But behind that public image was a real child with a loving family. Despite the media circus and constant speculation, the Ramsey family has always said they just want justice for John. Her father, John Ramsey, has been especially vocal in recent years. He continues to call on police and government officials to retest the DNA evidence using today's more advanced technology. He believes the case can still be solved. Burke and his half-brother, John Andrew, support this push. They argue that new techniques, such as genetic genealogy, the same method used to identify the Golden State Killer, could finally bring the killer to light. They also criticize the Boulder Police Department for being too slow and unwilling to accept outside help. The family has even asked for an independent agency like the FBI to take over the case. For them, it's not just about clearing their name, it's about giving JonBenet the justice she deserves after all these years. Her memory still lives on, and her family refuses to let her case be forgotten. Today, the question that remains is simple. Will JonBenet's killer ever be found? Despite the passage of time, the case is not considered closed. The Boulder Police Department has said that they are still working on it, but critics argue that not enough is being done. In recent years, true crime communities, independent researchers, and even former FBI agents have expressed interest in helping solve the mystery. Technology has improved dramatically since 1996, and many believe that a re-examination of the DNA could finally lead to a breakthrough. The Ramsey family has called for transparency and cooperation, asking police to work with outside labs and experts who specialize in cold cases. But progress has been slow. Meanwhile, JonBenet's story continues to appear in books, TV shows, podcasts, and documentaries. While some of these bring awareness, others have been accused of spreading misinformation and harming the family further. Burke's decision to speak out may mark a turning point. By showing the human side of the tragedy, he reminded the world that behind every headline is a real family still grieving. His appearance could inspire more people to come forward with tips, memories, or even confessions. The power of public attention can sometimes breathe new life into old cases, and maybe with enough pressure, the police will take the final steps needed to solve it. Until then, JonBenet Ramsey's case stands as both a heartbreaking mystery and a call to improve how we handle justice, truth, and the media's role in tragedy. Nearly 30 years have passed, but the pain of losing JonBenet Ramsey has never faded for her family. They have lived through the loss of a daughter and sister, endured false accusations, faced cruel media attention, and watched as the investigation into her murder fell apart. Still, they continue to fight not only to clear their names but to bring her killer to justice. Burke Ramsey, once a quiet and mysterious figure in the case, has now stepped into the light. He shared his truth not to gain sympathy, but to reclaim his story after years of silence and suspicion. His voice adds a new chapter to one of America's most haunting cases. The truth is still out there, and as technology advances, there's hope that it may finally be uncovered. Until that day comes, the name JonBenet Ramsey remains etched into the hearts of many, not just as a victim, but as a symbol of why justice must never stop seeking answers. Whether you believe the intruder theory, a family cover-up, or something else entirely, one fact is undeniable. A little girl was taken far too soon, and the world deserves to know who did it and why. Over the years, the JonBenet Ramsey case has taken on a life of its own, not just through official investigations and documentaries, but through public fascination. From internet forums to YouTube deep dives and true crime podcasts, thousands of people have pored over the details of the case, often uncovering missed elements or inconsistencies. While this widespread interest has kept the case alive in the public eye, it has also had negative effects. Misinformation, conspiracy theories, and targeted harassment toward the Ramsey family, especially Burke, have done real damage. Some amateur sleuths treated the case like a puzzle game, forgetting that behind the headlines are real people who lost a daughter and sister. Burke, in particular, has endured intense emotional pressure. Imagine being just a child, losing your sister in a violent way, and then being called a murderer by people who have never met you. That kind of trauma doesn't just fade, it lingers, shaping your entire life. Burke's decision to speak publicly after 28 years wasn't just a media moment. It was an act of personal courage, a way to confront decades of rumors and regain control over his own story. Even so, the public's interest has not been entirely harmful. In many other cold cases, pressure from the public has led law enforcement to revisit old files, retest DNA evidence, and sometimes even solve crimes once thought unsolvable. The Golden State Killer was identified in part due to public awareness and advances in genetic genealogy. That success story has given the Ramsey family and many others hope that something similar could happen here. New technologies are available: better DNA analysis, digital forensics, and even artificial intelligence tools to scan old case files for overlooked clues. The key, however, lies in the willingness of law enforcement agencies to embrace outside help and transparency. The Boulder Police Department has been criticized for guarding the case too tightly, avoiding collaboration with specialists who might bring fresh insight. Advocates, journalists, and even former detectives have called for more open cooperation, especially now that more advanced tools exist. The Ramseys are no longer just pleading for justice, they're demanding it. And with every passing year, more people are joining that call. As the world moves forward and younger generations discover JonBenet's story for the first time, through social media or documentaries, the core question remains unchanged. Who killed JonBenet Ramsey? The crime, committed in the supposed safety of a family home, still terrifies people today. It reminds us that justice is not always swift or guaranteed, but it also teaches us the value of persistence. JonBenet's story has sparked important conversations about media, ethics, child safety, forensic science, and law enforcement accountability. More than that, it has reminded people that every victim deserves a voice. 7 decades later, Burke's long silence, followed by his powerful words, may yet help steer the conversation in a new direction. And perhaps, with enough attention and the right use of science, the answer to that haunting question will one day come to light.